Hi, I'm very sad not to be in Naples with you today. This terrible COVID-19 situation has made it impossible. Instead, I'm sending this message from our place in northern Scandinavia. Uh, this is where we spend part of our time with my family. It's a place for work and recreation, and at the time of this crisis, it's the place where we can isolate ourselves from the more populated areas, like in southern Finland, where we mainly live, and partly enjoy the nature, while of course realizing that this is not a great time for everybody or anybody, as a matter of fact. But anyway, this is the place. That little cottage behind me is our hut. There's a sauna in there, and there's a little kitchen, and this icy plateau behind me is the river that is the border between Finland and Sweden. So in fact, those hills that you see in the back are on the Swedish side. At the moment, it's really strange. We're not allowed to cross that border because the borders of Finland have been closed because of the situation. This is the other building besides the hut with the sauna, and in here I have a little studio with a piano inside, which I can use for practicing while we're here. Well, studio sounds like a bit of a fancy word for what it is, because it really is just a tiny little room with an upright piano. We intend to make this project a bit larger in the near future and build a main building on the property and install a larger room there with a grand piano and possibilities to do chamber music workshops or even stream concerts online if we wish. But for now we have the practice studio and this little upright, and it's great that it's there, because in this situation I'll be able to send you a little musical message.
Paavali, thank you so much for joining us online. I mean, we were supposed to have you here in Naples, and you know, circumstances are so different now. But I'm very glad you are here with us, and you could tune in from Finland. And tell me a little bit more about where you are right now.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's nice to be able to connect in this way during this very bizarre time. We are in the very far north of Finland, actually northwest of Finland. The border of Sweden is about 100 yards away, and the border of Norway is about 20 miles away.
It's in your
Um,
backyard, basically.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we're much closer to the Arctic Ocean than to the Baltic Sea, or
Oh,
Helsinki is the Finnish capital. We also live in Helsinki, but we share our time between Helsinki and this location in Lapland. It's a very isolated place. The next village is 25 kilometers away, which is about 17 miles or 15 miles away from
mhm.
here, I think. And it's a beautiful place where we come to every now and then. Now during this Corona crisis, we're isolating here instead of isolating in our apartment in Helsinki.
Right, but if you had, for example, to get groceries, would you go to this nearing town to get the necessary?
Yep, 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 absolutely. So it's a drive away, but we have a freezer full of things that we stocked up already earlier, and so we're good. And there's actually fish in the river, so if you do
Oh,
ice fishing, you can catch fish there.
do you
And
fish?
we do.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So
Yeah, even in the winter. So you have to probably
yeah, no,
have
through the ice, you drill a little hole into the ice, and then you just fish through the ice. There's
fantastic.
also there's also reindeer herding
Oh, wow.
very nearby in this area, and so we could even get reindeer meat if we really needed to. And sometimes we do, but I guess we can just drive to the grocery store.
So have you been coming for a while to this place and spending time there, or?
Oh, absolutely. Myself, I've been trekking and skiing in this area since my childhood.
Oh, wow.
My parents used to do this a lot, and I grew into the rhythm of coming here twice a year in the springtime and in the fall time to do hikes and vacationing up here. But during the past 10, 15 years, these visits have become more regular, and also they take place during the entire year.
Hmm.
And eventually, my wife also fell in love with this area, and at some point we decided that we want to build a place for us here where we can spend vacations, but also we have plans to do musical activities. And as you have seen already today, some of the musical activities are already happening, even though our full system is not in place yet.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it looks like a fantastic place to do a festival. And
Mhm.
summer, or would you consider also something in the winter?
Each time of the year has its uh, own perks. In Lapland, people say that there are 12 seasons, and no, I'm sorry, 8 seasons. 12 months, obviously, but 8 seasons. So the nature is changing very, very rapidly, and it seems like each time of the year has its own kind of beauty. So that would be difficult to say. We have a festival here already, which is a multi-arts festival, and we started it together with our friends in Lapland, different artists from different fields, and there's music there, but not only classical music, but there's also folk music from the area, and also there's literature, and we had a painting exhibition and a painting workshop the other year, and that festival takes place in the middle of the summer.
Hmm.
In the middle of the summer, the sun is up all the time. So we are about 350 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, which means that once the sun is up in the middle of the summer, it doesn't set for a couple months.
How
And
does it
that's a,
influence your mood and your your psyche?
well, I get a little bit crazy always when I come here in the middle of the summer. First, this is so far north that you literally cannot tell if it's day or night. in the middle of the summer. And likewise, in the winter, the sun doesn't get up for a couple of months. And that's a beautiful time also, because you see the stars and you can ski in the moonlight. And
Do you see the northern lights?
I saw beautiful northern lights last night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they are there. They are also there. But I was going to say that when I come here in the middle of the summer, I first get crazy, and I have a hard time adjusting to any kind of sleeping rhythm. And I get up in the middle of the night, I can go outside and wow, it's like the daytime, and I take pictures. And then usually about 3-4 days after that, I get a bit exhausted and start to sleep in a more regular rhythm. But yeah, the nature is very strong, also because of the situation with the sunlight, so extreme.
That's incredible. So tell me, many of our listeners enjoy hearing the story. How does the journey of becoming a pianist start? When were you exposed to it in the family? Did you come across it by chance?
Yeah. I grew up with music happening in our home. I am the only professional musician in our family. I have 2 older brothers who used to take piano lessons, and their piano teacher came to our house to teach them. And so I observed their lessons, and actually I was a bit of a fan of their teacher, who's this very eccentric guy. And I grew up listening to him sort of sing and scream even at my brothers when they didn't do their right, their exercises the right way. And I think that my brothers had a little bit hard time with this guy, but I was completely mesmerized by his lessons, and I wanted to get to play the piano myself. And another important factor was that my parents liked classical music. They loved classical music, and we used to go to concerts a lot. So particularly my mom took me to the opera and to the symphony, and when a major pianist came to Helsinki, we were there, and I used to go to these concerts from a very early age, then I did get my wish and started to get piano lessons, and for I think maybe 10 years the piano playing stayed as a kind of hobby. I don't remember if I was always very enthusiastic about it or even wanted to practice a whole lot, but I was lucky to be studying with a very good teacher all the time, who was smart enough not to push me, but then on the other hand, she was a good motivator all the time to do the right things. And so by the time I really got into playing the piano very seriously and got very enthusiastic about this whole idea of becoming a musician, I was in my early teens. I had actually been playing for several years, and I already knew the ways of the instrument, and so I was in a way prepared to be bitten by the musical bug, and so there it started. An important motivator for me from that time, from the time of my early teens, was playing chamber music at the Music Institute and going to summer camps, music summer courses, and spend time there with my friends who also played, and getting lessons, and so I was surrounded by this kind of an environment, musical environment, and then it grew from that. I think that it took me quite a while to realize really for myself that I wanted to become a professional musician. I think I almost was in the university already at that time. But looking back, I think that subconsciously I probably understood it in my early teens.
Were you ever fascinated with another subject that you wanted to explore as a alternative, or?
I've been interested in many things, and also in school I like the mathematical subjects. I like physics and I like geography, and not so much math itself, but not enough to be seriously getting into it like I was getting into music all the time. Mm-hmm. Music moved me from the very early early days when I was mesmerized by my brother's piano teacher, and it had a very physical effect on me as well. And I've noticed that now, being a professional musician for quite a while, already a couple of decades, and performing piano repertoire and major piano repertoire, there are many important pieces in our repertoire that I really fell in love with already as a child. So when I was asked to play all the Beethoven sonatas about 15 years ago in a concert cycle, I had learned properly maybe 10 of them, but I'd actually played most of them already secretly when I was a child, or listened to them, and so on. So I guess that even though it felt like I was playing with music and I was not seriously studying it before I was in my early teens, I guess I was surrounded by music and I was really getting into music in a very deep way already then, and that is still rewarding me when I learn a new piece that I may have fallen in love with already when I was 8 or 11, like that.
What do you think about isolation and creativity? Do you feel that it contributes to the creative side, being isolated? Like in a situation like right now, for example, a lot of people are isolated not for their own choice, but by the circumstances.
Well, that's an interesting question. I guess when you're isolated about from something else, you are exposed to something else. Maybe you have time to read more, or maybe you have time to have interesting discussions with people online and talk to people on the phone, or listen to music. So in that way, being isolated like we are at the moment from going to the grocery store or seeing our friends in Helsinki doesn't mean that we are isolated from something else. So that's the first thought I get of that very interesting question. Another one is perhaps that I personally feel that culture, any kind of culture, but certainly music, is a reflection of nature, not only of rivers and beautiful sunsets and these kind of things, but anything, and the larger idea of nature, urban nature as well, and people as well. So I think for me, as a person interpreting music, I'm always interested in the kind of context that and the community where this particular music was created, and getting into reading about not only about Beethoven's personal history or reading about his genius, but also reading about what the world was like at that time, what happened in the country which he left behind when he went to Vienna, and how this whole Napoleonic sort of war and very, very, very difficult sort of political situation and very complex political situation of Europe might have affected his creative process. So I'm not one to believe that that art is really created in isolation, but rather it's always a reflection of surroundings of the artist, and I tend to look at interpretation also in that way. So on the one hand, study the background of the music, but then also allow that to interact with my world and the context where I'm spending my time, and finding links, which are often very subconscious links, but allowing links there.
The next piece is a piece which I was supposed to play in Naples. It's a Prelude by Debussy. In fact, my favorite Prelude by Debussy, called Bruyère.
No, I'm very grateful, Paavali, that you could tune in from Finland and join us for this. It's not a concert, of course, but at least our audience will get a chance to meet you, and we definitely are looking forward to you coming to Naples whenever that is going to be possible. So.
Well, I certainly hope so too. I think I was just talking to my neighbor here in Lapland. We were actually taking snow off our roofs. I was helping him today, and we talked about how this kind of connection would not have been possible 10 years ago. Right. So it is, and I'm glad that it is.
It's true, it's interesting that we were resisting technology for, many people have been resisting technology for quite a while, but overnight we had to switch to this other mode of communication, and that's right now is the only way you can stay in touch with your friends and your family. So.
Yeah, well, we're all in space right now. I hope that we could soon be on the same planet again.
Yes. Well, thank you, and I want to thank all our audience members, who have been supporting us and tuned in for this episode. Really grateful for all of your support as well, and we will see you soon.